It's Unsolicited Hot Take, and I'm your host, Thrift Barringer, and I have a lot that I'm going to be going down, so do not go anywhere. The fire is literally coming through my chest, and I just feel it coming out of my veins. I'm so fired up with everything I want to talk about around the wonderful world of sports, presented by Sports Visions. And let's go ahead and get into it. It's college football, and it is the month that everybody cannot wait for. It's rivalry month. It's really pretender versus contender month. Are you real? Are you not? November decides who's going to be in that playoff and who won't. And by the way, already the first college football playoff poll has came out, and I'm going to discuss that. And then I have a segment called Man in the Mirror. This is where I got some coaches that need to look in the mirror and say, what am I doing with my program? What is going wrong? Can I fix it? And can I eventually win a national championship? And then NFL. I cannot believe I'm saying this. The Atlanta Falcons, this is their division to lose. And looking at this NFC, aside from the Lions, you tell me who's the second best team. I think it's the Falcons. We'll go into that in more detail. And my MVP favorite plays for the Buffalo Bills. And can we have the two franchises in NFL history, two of the three, because the third one's Cleveland Browns, but two of the three franchises that have been perennially made fun of, never won a championship, Lions and Bills, could they be on a collision course to play for that? And then I got a special guest. He's going to be our NBA analyst. He keeps up with it religiously like me. It is time for NBA preview. I told you I was going to wait 2 weeks after the season started, at least a month of November before I gave my predictions. I'm going to have on Jonathan Gordon to give those predictions, so cannot wait. And then the finally having Crazy Chris. So you know he's always got something up his sleeve. Him and his Waffle House, he's pretty fired up about something. This is a guy that said, I don't know if it was the Jets that he said last week, he changes his mind every single week on who's playing in the Super Bowl. But let's go ahead and get into it. And finally, by the way, Nerd Alert segment, the year is 2008. I'm going to tell you everything that happened that year in sports. Is Oregon the best team in college football? I would say they're one of the top three teams. I can't put them over Georgia. If you look at both of those teams and they're on the field together, you're going to favor Oregon over the Bulldogs. I don't think you would favor anybody over the Georgia Bulldogs. With their defense and how elite it is, and Carson Beck has single-handedly tried to lose them games. Look what he did against Florida in the first half, Texas in the first half, and we know about Alabama, and they still won 2 or 3 of those games. Eventually, he's going to stop making those uncharacteristic mistakes that he didn't do last year, and the Georgia team's going to be rolling, and they're going to be, I think, rolling their way all the way to a national championship. But I do like Oregon. Dan Lanning's team's playing with a lot of confidence. To go to Michigan and beat the Michigan Wolverines 38-17 on the East Coast, I know Michigan is not as good as they were last year, but it's still a tough place to play, tough environment, and Oregon beat them by 21 points. They also dominated Illinois at home. We know about the win over Ohio State. And their last games, as 3 games of the season, Maryland at Wisconsin and Washington. They'll be favored in all those. The only one that may be kind of a coin toss would be Wisconsin, but they're 5-4, and I don't see them upsetting Oregon. I think they're going to be undefeated, and they're going to be in the Big Ten Championship. They're one of the 3 or 4 teams that could win it all. I'm not ready to put them in that Georgia category, but great season for Dan Lanning, and obviously he is a phenomenal coach. And if you're Alabama, you're wondering maybe we should have thrown the entire bank at him. Penn State is always going to be second fiddle. 3-17 is James Franklin against top 10 teams since he's been at Penn State. But here's the thing. If you're a Penn State fan, knowing the conference you're playing in, and I know you see how big of the stadium they have, one of the biggest in the country. I know when you think Penn State, they obviously got resources. But maybe expectations should be okay with going 10-2 and making a New Year's Six bowl. 10-2, and if you look, when they went 10-2 back in 2017, 2019, those are years they were ranked in the top 12. They would have made the playoff. So making the playoff every year, even though you don't win the Big Ten championship, you're probably not going to win the national championship. Penn State, do not make a decision that really could set you back. Look at Auburn. Look at how Tennessee was after they fired Philip Fulmer. Sometimes the grass is not always greener, and you're not going to find a better coach. And this guy literally has you in contention every year. I know you felt like you were at home. This has got to be a must-win. But if you're Penn State, you still have everything in front of you this year to make the playoff. You only lost by, what was it? They lost by 7 points to the number 2 team in the entire country. And your final 4 games, Washington, Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland. You go 11-1, and even though you probably won't make it to the Big Ten championship, it'll be Oregon-Ohio State reach match, you're still making the playoff this year. In the first college football playoff poll, you're ranked 6th. If you don't lose again, obviously you may drop 1 or 2 spots because teams behind you, like Tennessee, gets maybe a big win and they move up. Aside from that, Penn State's making the playoff. I know it was a tough loss, and it's tough to swallow thinking that you want to finally beat and be a national championship team. I just don't see it. And if it does happen, it's going to be one of those anomaly years for James Franklin and Penn State. Is BYU an Indiana contender? Indiana is undefeated. They do play at Ohio State. I feel like that's a loss. But if Indiana finishes 11-1, I think they're going to make the playoff. Why would they not make the playoff this year? And yes, they are a contending team. They're not just beating teams. They're taking them to the woodshed and embarrassing them. Calling the police is what I would do. I would report that as abuse, what they've done to everybody on their schedule. Now, they haven't played a ranked team, but they beat Nebraska 56-7, Northwestern by 17, Maryland by 14, UCLA by 29, Michigan by 37, Washington by 14. They're going to beat Michigan this weekend by double digits. They're going to lose to Ohio State and beat Purdue, finish 11-1. Kurt Cignetti's team, they're going to make the playoff, and I think I'm a believer in them, and this guy won't be at Indiana for long. You take Indiana to the playoff, there should be a ton of universities lining up at your door to try to hire you to come coach their team. Auburn is putrid. They're horrible. And I'll get into that in just a moment. But BYU, I didn't want to feel like that this BYU team, can they win a national championship? No, I don't think they can. But I really like their quarterback and Rutzlaff. He's putting up 18-7. He reminds me of Diego Pavia. He's the West Coast version of Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. He's only a junior this year. He has been efficient. He's been a playmaker, and he's helped lead this BYU offense to 8-0. They do finish out Utah, Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston. All those are teams other than at Arizona State that could be potentially where they get upset, or at Utah. That's always one. But right now, they will be favored in all those games. BYU, are they a contender? I don't put them in the category Indiana. I think Indiana could really pull off an upset in the playoff. I don't believe that with BYU, but it's a good story, and they're probably going to win the Big 12. And how about the Colorado Buffalo? 6-2. If they win out, Coach Prime's team will be in the Big 12 championship, and they will be taking on BYU. If he beats BYU and he wins out, Colorado's going to be in the playoff. And who would have thought that? Dang sure not me. But they'll be favored in every game they play the rest of the season. 10-2. And if you're Prime, you're using this as kind of a gateway to your next job, because Shadur's gone, Travis is gone, your team's going to suck next year. So you might as well ride it while it's hot now and go to a place where you can actually recruit and you have the money and the funding and the resources to be able to contend with the big dogs in the national championship landscape. Georgia, another close call to the vest. I talked about it with Carson Beck. Eventually, Buck Bellew says there is no other option. We talked with him. By the way, you can listen to the Sports Vision radio show every Monday and Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m. on 92.1 Smooth R&B. On Sports Vision radio show with me and DJ. DJ asked Buck about Carson Beck, and Buck Bellew, who was a national championship winning quarterback and is a big-time radio personality in Atlanta. He says, Carson just forcing throws. But if you think we should bench him, you name me a better option. I'm in agreement with him. And I think eventually Carson Beck's going to start playing his best football. And if you're the rest of the country, when that happens, it's scary because the way this defense is playing, Georgia's going to be on their way to their third national championship in the last 5 seasons. Auburn is putrid. They're terrible. They're horrible. And I don't even know. Like, the lack of confidence from this team, the lack of confidence your coach is exerting is worrisome. He has the same record, now worse than Brian Harsin. Obviously, the recruiting's there, but, I mean, if you're recruiting and you can't win games, 3-6, the Peyton Thorne didn't have a terrible game, 20-29, 239. Jarquez Hunter, who they's like, why do we need to give you the ball? It's not like you just had 300 yards last week against Kentucky. We don't need to feed you the rock. We don't need to give it to you. Let's put the ball in the hands of Peyton Thorne. 7 points against Vanderbilt. That coaching staff coached circles around Hugh Freeze and his staff. If you swap coaching staffs, Auburn right now has 1 loss. Swap coaching staffs and quarterbacks. But if you take Pavia and the Vanderbilt coach staff, you put them on Auburn, this team has 1 loss, maybe 2, and we're talking about major improvement heading into year 2. Right now, I don't know where this Auburn program's going. Obviously, you're not firing Hugh Freeze. You got to give him time. But this is a huge step back, even from last year's subpar season. Auburn has been set back for many years since firing Gus Malzahn. Miami is one of the most overrated undefeated teams I've seen from a Power 5 conference since Notre Dame in 2018. Remember in 2012, both those years they made the playoff. They got beat by 30 by Clemson in 18. And in 2012, Alabama was up so bad in that first half, you had Brian Kelly saying on national television, hopefully Bama doesn't come out in the second half. That's how bad they were getting their butt whooped. I feel like that may happen with Miami. Cam Ward's a great story. Right now he's my Heisman favorite. But Miami's literally played nobody, and they played a lot of games close to their vest. They will literally go the entire regular season without playing one team at the time they played them ranked. They miss out on Pittsburgh, SMU, and Clemson, the other teams that are ranked in the ACC, and they maybe play SMU in the SEC and the ACC championship. I think they're going to win the ACC championship. Do I think they're going to contend? No, I would not put them as a top 4 team to win a national championship. Man in the mirror, final segment. James Franklin, you look in the mirror and you realize that your fan base wants you to be Ohio State, and they're never going to be that. So maybe it's time for you to jump ship and go somewhere where you're appreciated, because I'm telling you right now, Auburn Tigers would take 10-2, 11-1 every year, contending, even though you can't ever beat Auburn or Alabama or Georgia, at least you're contending every year. They take that over than what they're going through right now at 3-6. So you need to maybe think about moving on from Penn State. Dabo Swinney, you're done, man. You can't even beat Louisville. I was so high on you. I thought, man, Clemson, they're rolling right now. They'll win out. They'll blow out Miami. They'll make a playoff. They'll win a playoff game. And then you went back to, remember that phrase, Clemsoning? And he got mad because we never Clemsoning anymore. We don't ever lose to teams we shouldn't. You have these last couple seasons. You've gone back to that old Clemson. And I don't think you're ever going to get back on top of that hill. And if you want to, you need to go to the transfer portal and NIL. If not, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be subjected to, because of your roster, losing to teams like Louisville that you should be beating. Hugh Freeze, I've already talked about that. He doesn't look like a coach with confidence, and I don't know if he needs to help himself. Maybe he needs to I'm not saying he step away, but something's going on. And if your coach cannot show confidence, why would his team? So he needs to look in the mirror and find out what's wrong with him to get his team back on track. And Lincoln Riley is 12-10 in his last 2 seasons, 4-5 this year. And I'm looking at Lincoln Riley, first year 12-2 playoff, Heisman Trophy winner. Same thing in 18, 12-2 playoff, Heisman Trophy winner. 19, second in Heisman, and Jalen Hurts made the playoffs, 12-2. 2020, 9-2. 2021, 10-2. 2022, 2021, 10-2. 2022, 11-3, and had a Heisman. And then since then, it's gone downhill. And a couple things got to happen. There has to be a toughness within USC's program to compete with the Oregons, Ohio States, and in the Big Ten and the Michigans. Then, on top of that, he hasn't had a quarterback. So you struggled last year with a good quarterback. Now you don't have one, and it's going to take time with your defense. I don't know if USC is going to give him time, and I don't think it's going to get fixed anytime soon. He may be on the hot seat next year, and 2 years ago, he was the hottest coach in college football. Again, maybe it's not always greener when you leave the jobs and you thought the SEC was going to be tough. Now you're struggling in the Big Ten. Alabama, LSU, loser does not make the playoff. I'm going LSU upset in Alabama in Baton Rouge. Alabama finished the season 9-3. LSU 10-2 makes the playoff. That's where I'm going with that. Georgia and Ole Miss, I think Beck plays his best game, and I think they beat Ole Miss 330. And I understand Lane Kiffin's gripe. He's like, come on, we get Georgia top 10. We want to have this a night game. You're not going to have that. I don't think it really would have mattered. This team stopped Texas, who's better than you. They're going to beat you by 2 touchdowns. And again, I think Beck plays his best game. But Miami may be on upset alert. They lost to Georgia Tech last year at home. They play them on the road this year. I'm going to take Miami, but that would be my team that I'm circling for upset. And Cam Ward is the Heisman frontrunner. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to do NBA preview with Jonathan Gordon. Then we'll have a break, go NFL, and end it with Crazy Chris. It's Unsolicited Hot Take. Be right back after this. back, everyone, to Unsolicited Hot Take. I'm your host, Thrift Barringer, and now alongside with me is my good friend, NBA analyst. He's got another hat. He's also the head basketball coach for a high school team around here, Calvary Christian. But right now, he's our NBA analyst because he keeps up with about it religiously as I do and everyone around our area. Thank you so much for joining us, Jonathan Gordon.
Appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you having me.
And I hope we're going to have this conversation throughout the season.
Absolutely.
And then hopefully we can get our guy J.R. Anderson on because I know he loves to come on and debates you, man.
Man, that dude he has some hot takes. He definitely has some hot takes.
All right, so we have the top 5 teams in the NBA. That's how we're going to do our preview. We got top 5 teams, MVP favorites, conference final pick, NBA Finals, NBA championship pick. We got sleeper team, and then favorite team to watch, best player under 25. We're going to do that all right now, and let's go ahead and get into it. All right, first things first. Looking at both conferences, let's start with this. Mm-hmm. What's the best conference in your opinion, top to bottom?
It's no question it's the West, man. The depth in the West is loaded from. There's probably about 10 to 11 good teams in the West, and so there's going to be a good team that doesn't make the playoffs this year, and doesn't make the play-in at all. In the East, you have probably 2 teams that's going to make the play-in that probably shouldn't even be in the playoff contention at all. So the West is definitely loaded as of right now. I think the East is top-heavy. They got some teams that can make some noise. Obviously, you got the Boston Celtics and Cleveland Cavaliers right now playing really good basketball. Orlando was playing good, but they just lost Pablo Banchero for about 6 weeks. But I think right now, man, the West is just so loaded, man. You got so many teams that can make a difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think definitely the Western Conference is by far the best division, top to bottom. Now, I would put Cleveland, New York, and Boston up with any of the top teams from the Western Conference. I think you put those 3 teams in the Western Conference, they'd still be one of the top 3 teams. But then that's pretty much it. I was really high on Philadelphia, but then, Joel Embiid doesn't want to play back-to-backs. We don't know when Paul George is going to be back, and they're struggling. Don't even get me started on the Bucks and what they're thinking that Middleton comes back, they're going to overcome it. Slow start. 1-6 is not a big deal like it would be if you were in football because guess what?
You played 82 games.
Yeah, you got 75 more games, Jonathan, before the end of the season. But I would say definitely the Western Conference, and I think it's up for grabs this year. I think the favorite is a team that is young and never made it to a conference finals, and the Thunder. Yes. They would be the favorite coming in right now. You got teams like the Suns and the Warriors. If they stay healthy, maybe they contend and make a deep run. You got still Nikola Jokic. You would think eventually Denver either would make a move or have someone to be able to contend with him, but it's just basically what I'm getting at. It's up for grabs. Let's start with the top 5 teams.
Right.
Okay? And then we'll do top 4 teams in each conference. Top 5 teams in the NBA right now. Who are your top 5?
I think at number 1, I would probably go with Boston Celtics. Returning champions, they're still loaded. They brought back the same team they had last year. Guys have gotten better. You've had guys that have played together at the Team USA. And they're just, you got 2 guys that are also really motivated right now.
Yeah.
In Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown was left off the Team USA roster, and Jason Tatum was set in a couple games. So it's very rare that you get a champion that has a chip on their shoulder like they do. And so they've come out firing in the past couple of games that they've played so far. Jason Tatum's shot looks really good. He looks like he's gotten rid of that hitch. And so, man, they're going to be really hard to beat, man. You got 5 $30 million players starting lineup, and then you got Peyton Pritchard that's shooting lights out right now off the bench. You got the other guy, Hauser, that's been shooting really good off the bench. So, they're just loaded, man. It's going to be hard to see anybody beating them. And number 2, I would say the Thunder. They're young, they're talented, they're loaded. Again, they have kind of like the Celtics. They got 5 guys that can all dribble, pass, and shoot. And so it's going to be kind of really hard to contend with that. And then they have a rim protector at the rim, and Chet Holmgren, who has added a lot to his game, is playing at a top 20 level right now in the league. And then you have Shai Gilgeous, who is an MVP candidate, who I probably would pick for the MVP. Well, we can't talk about that right now.
No, we better
talk about that a little later.
Yeah, come on now.
But yeah, they got Shai Gilgeous, and then obviously they have J-Dub, and they're loaded too. So I really don't see anybody beating them in the West this year. At number 3, they haven't come out the gate playing the best yet, but I think they just have a lot to work through. I got the Knicks. So adding Cat gives them another dimension that they didn't have last year. Seems like Jalen Brunson had to carry the load a lot in the playoffs last year, and so having Cat, adding Mikal Bridges, and having another year with OG, I just don't see. I think when they get it going and when they figure out their roles, it's going to be really hard to beat that team. And right now they're 3-3, but I think the more they play with each other, they're going to have to figure it out. And Cat obviously is going to have to step up a little bit on the defensive end, but what he brings them on offense is going to be tough. At the 4 spot, it's kind of tough because there's so many good teams right now in the West. But they haven't started off great, but I'm still going to pick the Mavs. I'm going to put them at 4. Obviously, you got Luka, who had a little injury to start the season, but, Luka always plays himself into shape. So he never really starts the year off at his best. But by the end of the year, you can argue that he's the best player in the league. You got Kyrie coming back for another year. Obviously, their chemistry is great. They've been building on that for the last couple of years. And then you add Klay Thompson, who is still a knockdown shooter. People, sleep on him because he doesn't do the things that he used to do when he was at a championship level. But as a third option, man, he still is a high-level shooter. And so adding him to the pieces that they already have, and then they got 2 rim protectors, they're going to be hard to beat once they figure it all out. And at the 5 spot, I'm going to go with the Suns, man. Right now, I think they're number 2 in the West. Obviously, you have KD, you have Booker, and you have Brad Beal. And they also added Budenholzer this year as a coach, who is a mastermind. Had a really good year with the Hawks some years back.
Yeah, and he won a championship with the Bucks too.
Right, and then won a championship with the Bucks. So I think adding them is going to unlock a lot of the things that the Suns were struggling with last year. And obviously they added a point guard this year in Tyus Jones, who came out of my class. I actually got to play against him at the Boo Williams tournament about 10, 12 years ago. But yeah, they've added him as well to kind of get some stabilization at the point guard position. And so they're going to be a sleeper team, I think, to watch to come out the West. The only issue is Bradley Beal always gets hurt, Kevin Durant always gets hurt, and Booker always gets hurt.
And
so you got to be careful about that.
And I knew we were going to get him. JR says the Knicks. He's laughing at you. He says the Knicks. I'm a Knicks fan. I don't believe. And then the Suns. So I knew we were going to get. JR, you're coming on this show.
We got to get JR on here.
And I was
laughing. I want to be back when he comes.
Listen, I was laughing with him because Cam Baker, a good friend of mine, he actually plays for a semi-pro team around our area, and we're going to try to get them on Columbus Skyhawks, and we're going to try to get them on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And I told him, I was like, JR, I'm going to bring you in as my color, and then we got to talk some NBA too. All right, number 1, obviously Boston. You may mention they're the deepest team. They're playing with the most confidence, and they're motivated. Unlike past champions, their 2 superstars were disrespected. So obviously, I'm agreement with you on that. Right. I'm not ready to believe in the Thunder, but I think I'm not ready to say I can envision Thunder winning a championship. But their coach is great. Their team is loaded, and they're full of young, energetic talent. And with Hartenstein coming back, Britt gives them some depth at the center position where they rebounding and defense. They need that. And Holmgren's playing fantastic basketball. I would then talk at number 3. I got the Knicks, same with you. 4, I got the Suns. 5, I got Cleveland. I'm ready to believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think they're a 3-and-D, elite 3-and-D wing player away from really being a contender in the East to play with Boston. Garland and Mitchell playing their best together since they both started their tenure with the Cleveland Cavaliers just a few years ago. And remember, there was some animosity. They were talking, does Donovan want to be traded? Right now, they're playing well together. Evan Mobley's playing his best as a pro, putting up 19 points a game and starting to live up to his height. We all know how great of a center Jared Allen is. Dean Wade, he's not great. Isaac Okoro, not great at the 3 position. But if they find someone that can be that guy that gives you –
though. They compete.
They do, but they give you – if you get another 10 to 12-point guy that can hit threes, play good defense – Kenny Atkinson, you like Mike Bulldozer. I love Kenny Atkinson as a coach with Cleveland, so I definitely like them. My top 4 teams in the East, Cleveland, Boston, New York. I really was going to put the Magic because I thought with Banchero, he was on tear, putting up 30 a game. I was like, man, he's taking his game to another level. Maybe the Magic, now with his injury, kind of a setback. I'd probably go eventually. I would hope Philadelphia would pan out.
Yeah,
I'd
I
like to
think
see Philly, Cleveland, Boston, and New York in a conference semifinals. So I'll go those four, and the top four teams in the West: Suns, Thunder, Warriors, and I think I'm going to go Minnesota. I eventually think they're going to figure it out. I don't think there's no way Julius Randle wants for his entire career to be known as the ball stopper that literally killed his teams.
Right.
I thought this was really a home run trade for both teams. For Minnesota, getting a guy that they can actually throw the ball down to in the post and go to work.
Right.
And then Knicks get someone that can space the floor and play. And it's also a big man that they needed to play when Mitchell Robinson's hurt and Karl Anthony Towns. I like the trade for both. Kind of a slow start for Minnesota, but same thing with New York. You knew this was going to happen. Those would be my top four teams. Any change in that?
I don't know, man. Minnesota, I don't like the way that I just don't like the way their offense is working right now. I feel like they're too crowded. I think you got too many guys that want to go to the basket. And right now, if you haven't paid attention, Anthony Edwards is shooting like 8 or 9 to 10 threes a game. And
I don't like that.
I don't like it at all because he's unstoppable going to the basket. But I feel like the reason why he's doing that is because you have Gobert that's clogging up the paint. You have Randall, like you said, is a ball stopper, and he gets the ball. He wants to ISO in the paint. And when you have so many guys that want to play in the paint, who's going to spread the floor? Yeah. And so I think Ant is trying to take on that responsibility, but now you limit his powers, which is getting to the basket. I mean, he's 6'4", 225 pounds, and he's fast, quick, and athletic, and he's not even getting to the basket like he typically does, and we're not getting to see those typical Ant plays. And so until they figure that part out, man, I'm not too high on Minnesota right now.
Golden State, they got off to a hot start. Couple of things. If Hill continues to shoot, you talked about 55% right now. Yeah. He is lights out, and obviously he's putting up 21 a game. He's the leading scorer for the Warriors right now. He is an upgrade over Klay Thompson. If he continues this stretch and Steph starts playing like Steph, and you got Wiggins putting up 16 a game, playing motivated basketball. You got Kuminga and Moody finally getting minutes, coming into their own, and Draymond doing Draymond things.
Right.
The Golden State Warriors can definitely be a top 4 team, and that's why I put them in my top 4. Suns, I have Thunder, I got Warriors, and then that 4th team, I still got Minnesota. I not ready to believe in Dallas because I don't know how Kyrie's going to play out the whole year.
I'm not ready to believe in Golden State yet.
No?
Man. And the reason why I think is because, like we talked about a little earlier, they played an easy schedule up to this point. We'll see how they do against the Celtics tonight. They played an easy schedule up to this point. I still feel like they need some type of rim protection. When you get into the playoffs, regardless if Denver is an 8th seed or not, you're going to have to guard Jokic.
They're beating Boston by 11 right now.
That's good.
So if they win tonight, can you not believe in a team that's got 4 championships at this point, John?
I'm not saying that they're not a good team, and I'm not saying that they can't compete with anybody. What I'm saying is they don't have anybody on their starting lineup over 6'8". And that there's a lot of big guys in the West. I think they don't have to bring in a guy that's maybe like a 20-10 type of 7-foot big, but just to have another look, to have a guy.
What about Lauri Markkanen for a team in Utah that's horrible? He puts up over 24 a game. He gives him a 7-footer that can put on the floor, play decent defense, playmate. What about him, adding that addition?
That would be huge. I mean, I think if they have so much talent at the wing position, they have so many guys that they can play. You got Moody, you got Podziemski, you got Kuminga. You got so many guys that are playing high-level basketball. You can package one of two of those guys in a pick to get over to Utah to get Lauri Markkanen, and then I would believe in him as a real team, man. But I just think right now the West is big. There's a lot of big dudes you got to guard in the West, and if you don't have the size, you're putting a lot on Draymond at 6'5" to guard those guys, man. I just think the NBA's too big, too fast, too athletic. I think right now they're hitting on all cylinders, but going into a playoff series, they're going to need some size.
I want to talk about 2 things. One's controversial, and we'll get into that controversial, and the other one is not really controversial. It's just near and dear to my heart, and it's the Atlanta Hawks. I want to believe in this team. I really do, and I'm telling you, I know they're 3-5 right now. I love Dyson Daniels. I think he's an upgrade over playing with Trae Young. I'm not saying he's better than DeJounte Murray, but I like him as a perfect fit.
He's a connective piece.
With a Trae Young. I like DeAndre Hunter. I actually think Ricochet, the number 1 overall pick, is showing promise and is not scared. So I'm not seeing bust all over him.
No, I don't see bust.
I also really like Jalen Johnson. and Clint Capella. They got Okongwu. If the pieces start playing together, Bogdanovich is out right now, so is DeAndre Hunter. Trade DeAndre Hunter, for Christ's sake. I mean, he can't stay healthy. Get someone else, or either let Rich start starting. Hawks, this year, expectations for me, between 40 and 45 wins making the playoff. If that can happen, maybe they can build with the young talent and eventually get there. I just think, and then the East is up. It is with the injuries from Banchero. You don't know what you see from Indiana. You see how bad of a start in Philadelphia and Milwaukee.
Right.
I like this roster. There's talent on there. Will they ever put it together? I love Quinn Snyder, but it seems like he can't get these guys to play great basketball for a long stretch.
I'm going to keep it honest with you, Thrift. The Hawks are probably a 10th or 9th seed. I think, like you said, they got some pretty good wings. But I just feel like if your best player is 6 foot, you're just not going to make it too far in the league. And there's no knock on Trae Young. I think Trae Young.
I feel like you're hating on Trae Young.
No, bro, I love Trae Young. I love his game. I love watching him play when I go to the Hawks games. But he's 6 foot, man. And when you got teams that have 6'9".
Hold on, Chris.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. Chris is getting fired up. He literally just threw something back there. You don't talk about his Hawks and danger. You don't talk about Trae Young. Continue.
Just when you can put a 6'9" defender on a 6 foot guard, man, that gives him that throws a lot of that makes it hard for him. And I think when your best player is 6 foot, it's a problem. Now, if he was your second best player or maybe your third best player,
I'm in agreement with you.
The Hawks can make some noise. If they can trade for like a KD or something, then then I'm a believer. But right now, with him being your best player, I just don't believe in him, man.
And I'm with you. And I don't think he's not a Steph Curry, obviously.
No.
And then they don't have a Draymond Green or a Klay Thompson either around him.
Exactly.
I just think it's not a team that can win a championship right now. Controversial comment. This Lakers team, if they don't find another star to replace what has been the most inconsistent player in the history of basketball in D'Angelo Russell, I don't see this team contending in this Western Conference.
I don't think they need a star.
And then another thing, I think if you're this Lakers team, what do you want this season to be about? Because I think this team, the way AD's playing, is one of the best players, if not the best player in the world. You got to capitalize on that. LeBron's still being Bron. Why not try to win a championship instead of making it about Bronny playing with LeBron?
Right.
And there's where my problem is. It is a cool story. It is awesome that he got to play with his son. But as a person, let's say you are in the shoes of someone that is running an NBA organization, are you paying Bronny James to start for your team? If you're a contending team right now, is Bronny James even getting secondary minutes? There's no way. Nobody is saying that. So why are we making an emphasis on getting him minutes, talking about him being in the G League, all this stuff, when I think that's a roster spot that should be utilized or maybe traded away to bring in one more piece for a team, I think, ultimately winning a championship. But maybe Bron's of the mindset, if I get another one, I get another one. If not, I don't care. Playing with my son is almost more important than winning a championship.
Thrift, he's the 15th man on the roster. Nobody cares about the 15th spot.
They cut the net down.
What I'm saying is
from a second-round player. Listen to this.
All right, go ahead.
Cleveland cut the net down and gave it to him.
Right.
Did any other second round ever have that happen to them? When Manu Ginobili, drafted in the second round, scored his first buckets for San Antonio, did he get to keep the net? But continue.
Thrift, it's Bron's son, man. Like, it's all about money at the end of the day. And whether he scores 2 points, 20 points, it don't matter. He's going to make more money and get more clicks on social media than any other 55th pick in the NBA history.
I agree.
So when it's a money thing, of course he's going to get the looks, he's going to get opportunities, and maybe he doesn't capitalize on it. I'm not sure if he will. I don't think he's good enough to be an NBA player, but it is what it is. As far as the Lakers go, though, I don't think they need a third star, man. I think they need depth at the wing position. I think they need a defender. Right now, they don't have any perimeter defenders.
Who would that guy be if you could go out and get someone?
What's the guy from Portland that played for Denver a couple years back? I would get Dorian Finney-Smith. Who's that guy from Portland? I cannot think of his name right now to save my life. Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant would be a good guy. They need right now. Their issue is D'Lo's not a defender.
Would you want him on your team if you're winning a championship?
Absolutely not. Austin Reeves is right now. He's their best perimeter defender. That's who they're putting on the best player, and that's really not his. He's a decent defender,
right?
But when you don't have a guy that you can throw, they need a 3-and-D. They don't have enough 3-and-Ds. They got guys that can hit threes, like they got Dalton Connect, but he's a rookie. But he can't defend. So right now they're depending on AD to do everything defensively. Bro, you know Bron's not going to play defense every night.
No.
He's going to pick and choose his spot, as he should. He's 40 years old, so you can't expect that. But they need an athletic guard to pair along with Austin Reeves. I think that's their biggest issue. Right now they have two skill guards that are not athletic starting in the backcourt, and you're going against some of the NBA right now is the most athletic it's ever been. So if you got point guards that are catching lobs and doing all this stuff, and you got shooting guards that are 6'7", 6'8", you can't start a D'Lo and the Austin Reeves, and then what's the guy, Rui Hachimura? He's also not a defender. So you got three guys who are not hell of defenders. No. Bron, who can play defense, but he's not going to on a consistent basis unless it's the playoffs. And then you have AD, who's probably one of the best, if not the best defender in the league. You're putting too much on him, and you're asking him to score 35 points a game. So right now, I would say AD is playing probably the best out of anybody in the league right now, but you cannot depend on him to be your all-in-all on defense if you want to be a serious team. So they're going to have to package D'Lo off to get some kind of 3-and-D guys. And I think if you do that, you got a chance, man. Because, I mean, like you said, there's some guys in the West right now. Everybody's loaded, but some people are shaky right now.
Yeah.
So the Lakers got a chance, man. I think JJ's done a good job of getting guys organized.
So don't waste the year.
So, yeah, you can't waste a year.
On Bronny James getting minutes.
He's only getting like 2 minutes
let's
a game.
Let's worry
man.
and focus on getting a player like Jaden McDaniels, who would be the perfect fit.
They're not getting Jaden.
I know they're not getting him. Minnesota's never traded him. I'm saying a player like that would be a perfect fit for them. And just getting rid of D'Lo. I mean, my God.
No, I like D'Lo. He's not a bad basketball player.
I
just don't think he's a winning player.
Yeah. Well, then I'm trying to win. So I'm getting rid of D'Lo.
Sure.
MVP favorites right now. Who would be it? I know where you're leaning, so I'll let you. You're thinking Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Is that where you're going?
The more I've been thinking about it, man, if the Lakers can put together something, AD's been playing lights out.
It's AD and Jason Tatum are my two guys to win an MVP. Now, obviously, Lakers are going to have to be a top 4 seed for that to happen.
And you got to stay healthy.
But Tatum's on another level right now, putting up 30 a game, and if Boston's the number 1 seed, eventually they got to respect him and give him some love and give him an MVP. So Tatum and AD would be my two.
I would say AD, Shai. I love Tatum. I just feel like they're so deep, man. His numbers are going to eventually drop because they have so much talent. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to keep up the same numbers as he started off with. But he's definitely a sleeper in the MVP race right now.
All right, so we're going to talk conference finals picks. My conference finals coming in this season, I really wanted to go Philly, New York, but I am not liking what I'm seeing from Philly. I don't know what I'm going to get from Embiid, so it's made me kind of back off from that. That's correct. Before the season started, that's where I was leaning heavily. I'm going Knicks Boston now in the Eastern Conference, and I think that's a collision course. I think the Knicks are going to eventually win 60 games this year. I think the Boston's going to win 60, and those are the best 2 teams. Those are the teams that should be facing off. Cleveland's going to be good, and Cleveland will give one of those teams a run for their money in the conference semifinals. But give me Cleveland and New York and Boston, and then in the Western Conference,
it's hard, man. It's hard.
Give me the Suns and give me the Thunder, and how full circle that would be for KD to play against the Thunder for the right to go to the NBA Finals. And finally taking a team not named the Warriors, and it's against a team. And remember, he's only gone to the NBA Finals 3 times or 4 times because he was really hurt that last time with the Gold Warriors. But he did take the Thunder in 2012, never went back, and then he beats them to get there. Give me Suns Thunder right now. And if Denver ever figures it out and makes a trade, I love Jokic in Denver, but I'm going to go Thunder. I'm going to go Suns. What do you got? Western Conference.
In the Western Conference, give me Thunder and the Mavericks. Man, people don't think about how good those 2 rim protectors are that they have, man. Lively and Gafford, man, they do a really good job, and they do all the little things. They talk about Kyrie, they talk about Kyrie, and they talk about Luka. But those guys really, really made a difference. And then PJ Washington, man, like he had a really good playoffs last year. Nobody really would think that because he was coming from a terrible program in Charlotte, Charlotte Hornets. But he came in and made a really big impact, and I really think that those guys, once Luka gets back to getting back in shape, and Clay finds out really his niche, those two guys are going to anchor that defense, man, and they're going to be hard to beat in the playoffs. And Luka is, when the lights come on, he's a real deal. So I think I got the Mavs and Thunder.
In the NBA Finals.
Oh, in the East, I got Celtics and
Knicks.
Celtics and Knicks.
Yeah. Give me Celtics, and I guess give me Suns. I don't want to see the Thunder. I'm sorry. I'm just like storyline. If I'm just doing storyline, I'd like to see Celtics and Suns.
KD and Tatum.
Give me that in the finals. What do you got?
I don't think the Suns are going to stay healthy, man. I'm sorry.
So you got Thunder?
I got the Thunder and, the Thunder and the Celtics. Boston Celtics.
Yeah. They're going back-to-back. And then eventually one of those guys are not going to be playing for Boston, and Tatum or Brown. But until then, they're going to get their championship window at maybe 2 or 3. I think that's where they'll plateau
I think they can
at.
get 3 in the next 5 years.
Yeah. And then eventually one of those guys like Brown, they're going to want to go somewhere else. Sleeper team. I got the Heat. And the reason I'm picking the Heat is because they're a team that you never can kill.
No, man.
Jimmy Butler's playing motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're going to make a trade somehow, some way, and another superstar is going to be there by the end of this season.
Who do you think it's going to be? I can tell you who I think it's going to be.
I don't know.
Who do you think it's going to be?
I don't know, but it's going to be someone.
You know who's going to be?
A DeMar DeRozan.
I'm going to tell you who it's going to be.
I mean, or
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
It's not going to be Giannis.
I'm telling you, man. He's not happy
and that
right now.
means
in the
Doc
Bucks.
Rivers is getting fired, if that's the case.
He's going to force his way out. He's going to go.
Giannis,
he said the 2 teams he wants to go to is the Heat and the Heat and for some reason the Nets.
What about Zach LaVine, another team that
I don't think Zach LaVine's a serious.
Yeah, but
player,
I don't think Giannis is seriously going to be traded this year.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe off season, but not during the season.
You never know. You never know.
But Jimmy, he's excellent. So who's your sleeper team?
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. Pull up the West real quick, man. Let me think. Sleeper team. I want to go. Give me the Lakers, man. Give me the Lakers. And the reason why
AD's going to play.
AD's been playing top-tier basketball. You never can count out Bron in the playoffs. If they can make a deal to get rid of D'Lo, I mean, they're always competitive when they play the top-tier team. So, like, I don't know. I think if things go right, everything has to go right as far as health. Everything has to go right. They got to get the right matchups. But, I mean, when AD's playing this motivated and this good, and then you also you have Bron in the playoffs, you just never know, man. You never know. So
I like that.
Give me the Lakers as a sleeper team.
I like that sleeper pick. All right, final thing. Favorite team to watch if you had NBA League Pass, which I do like utilizing sometimes.
Yeah.
Who would be that team that you have to turn on? For me, it's always Golden State. I love Stephen Curry. I love the way they play basketball.
Right.
I've also thoroughly enjoyed watching San Antonio with Chris Paul because he's one of my favorite players.
My favorite player of all time, yeah.
Playing with Wembanyama. So those would be pretty much 2 of them that I enjoy watching. I like how hard the Knicks play, even though it's sometimes kind of painful offensively. They're, Tom Thibodeau is not known for juggernaut offense, but I would probably still lean Golden State, maybe the Suns to an extent. Those would be the teams I like watching. And another team I don't like watching is the Memphis Grizzlies. I can't stand watching them. What? I'm sorry.
That is crazy, man.
I don't. I'm not saying Jaw's not fun to watch, but aside from Jaw, I mean, you like watching Desmond Bane's game?
Little short arms.
I mean, short arms. He's like bulky as heck, got no neck, and the way he shoots.
I'm not a huge fan of him.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't like his game.
He's good, but I don't like the way he plays either.
He reminds me a lot of Aaron Gordon. It's kind of like robotic how they do it. They get buckets, though.
It is robotic.
Yeah, but who would be your team that every time you see them on, you got to watch it?
It's funny. They're not very good. I got 2 teams, and neither one of them are the best teams in the league. One of them might be one of the worst. I love watching the Hornets, man.
LaMelo?
I love watching LaMelo. Brandon Miller, he always does something that just like makes your eyes pop.
Oh, they're so bad.
They just play unserious basketball. But
Yeah.
LaMelo might just come down and pull up from half court, go between his legs off the backboard to Brandon Miller for a
I
windmill.
can see that,
like,
right.
They play a fun brand of basketball. And for some reason, they're always competitive in games. They just don't know how to win yet. And I think they have a young coach. LaMelo probably just needs to get more serious about life. But he's averaging, like 34 points a game right now. Like, he's killing it right now. It's just they're not very serious right now. But I'm starting to see what JR is saying about Brandon Miller, man. He's been trying to say that he thinks Brandon Miller is a better player than Wemby, and he's going to be a better player than Wemby.
I don't know about that,
I don't
JR.
know about that,
Hold
man.
up.
I don't know about that.
So-
But I really do like Brandon Miller, and I like his progression. And I love LaMelo. I think if they can just figure out a way to get more serious about defense, they're going to be a really good team in a couple years, man, if they can focus on that. But they're probably the most fun team to watch. And I love to watch the Rockets play, too. They got so much athleticism.
I love
on the team.
Jabari Smith, yeah, and that team is full of talent. I agree with you. I like both of them, too. All right, well, we had a lot of fun. This is our NBA preview segment on Unsolicited Hot Take. You're going to see more of Jonathan Gordon here on with me, and looking forward to talking to you throughout the season, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back after this. It's time to talk some NFL and Crazy Chris's Falcons. They pretty much got the division on lock. We'll talk about that right after the break. This Unsolicited Hot Take with Thrift Barringer presented by Sports Visions. You can listen to me and DJ Jones tomorrow on the Sports Visions radio show, 4 to 6 p.m., 92.1 Smooth R&B. Looking forward to being back on the radio show tomorrow with my mentor and partner, DJ Jones. Time to talk some NFL. Falcons division to lose. They win again against the Cowboys, pretty dominant fashion. Tampa Bay lost in a heartbreaking fashion against the Chiefs. They're now 2 games up on the record-wise on Tampa Bay, and they got a 2-0 record. They're undefeated in division play. You look at their schedule, 12-5, 13-4 is where I see this team going. And if you look in the NFC, I mean, the Eagles kind of up and down. The Packers just lost to and Jordan Love maybe got injured again. I don't know if I think maybe this fairy tale of the Vikings have gotten busted, and until the 49ers are healthy, why can't the Falcons be a team that can contend with the Detroit Lions, who are the best team in the NFC? Make no bones about it. But Kirk Cousins, another great game. Mooney was good. The only question mark I had was, why in the heck do we refuse to keep being consistent on giving Kyle Pitts the football? It's like he has a good game one week, and the next week, we don't even want to find him. Bijan Robinson's going to hit over 1,000 yards this year. Algiers had a touchdown. Kirk Cousins had 3 touchdowns. That brings Kirk Cousins on the season now. 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's projected, according to ESPN, to throw to 4,400 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Mooney's going to hit over 1,000 yards. Drake London. Kyle Pitts got targeted 1 time. Drake London only twice, but at least it was a touchdown. Mooney's definitely one of his favorite targets. They like finding Robinson in the past game, but can we please utilize Kyle Pitts? Please! How hard is it to use him? I don't understand. Why is he not being used? But I'm nitpicking. Falcons 6-3, and another great win against the lowly, the terrible, the hard to watch. That I'm going to fire somebody. Dallas Cowboys. The worst teams in the NFL right now are worse than I think they've been in quite some time. I'm looking at the standings right now. Horrible. New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, the Jets, Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Las Vegas, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Saints, the Panthers. All these teams are just terrible, terrible football teams. And I don't know who the worst team in football is. I'm leaning in the Patriots. But the Patriots, they did just get a miraculous win against the Jets, and they beat the Bengals at the beginning of the season. So they're bad, and losing to those teams is really horrible. But the Lions, clear favorite right now. I think 14-3. I think I was looking at their schedule, how they're going to finish up. And if that's the case, Jared Goff, he may win the MVP. And he was one of my sleeper guys to win the MVP this year. I'm going to hang my hat on that if the Lions continue. And they are the favorite in the NFC. The Chiefs are playing with fire. They may be the most 4-4, 8-0 team we've seen. But Patrick Mahomes looked good against the Bucs. Hopkins looks like he's rejuvenated. And this defense is underrated. I think Mahomes starts playing better. The Chiefs start getting better. They're not finishing undefeated, but they will finish the top team in the AFC. And, again, would you doubt them? I mean, I'm not. And they could be looking for their 4th Super Bowl, 3rd straight. We have not seen a team in the history of the NFL win 3 straight Super Bowls. Nobody's ever done it. Not even the great Pittsburgh dynasties, the great New England dynasties. They won 3 or 4, but never have anyone won 3 straight. And if it's going to happen, it's going to be somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who is on Tom Brady's heels as trying to be the GOAT. And he's got a long way to go. I don't think it's going to happen. But he's got multiple MVPs and 3 Super Bowl championships, and I am not one of those guys that is worried about the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Jets may make a playoff run. The AFC is so wide open right now. You got Pittsburgh, you got Baltimore, you got Houston, Kansas City, and Buffalo. Remember, 7 teams got to make it. So who are the other 2 teams? Is it Cincinnati? Is it the Colts? Is it the Chargers, the Broncos? If you look at the Jets' schedule, it's favorable. They did just beat the Texans. Why can't the Jets get to 9-8? Again, I think that's feasible, and this team could make the playoffs. And maybe not all is lost in Aaron Rodgers, one of his final seasons, because I think he's retiring here in the next couple of years. Ravens play to their competition. They play a team in the playoffs, they win 41-10. They play the Browns, they lose. Help me make sense of that. They got 2 losses against the Browns and the Raiders, who are combined 4-14, but yet blew out the Bills, took care of business against the Broncos. They also have beaten the Commanders. They've beaten the Bucs. They have beaten the Bengals. Beat the Cowboys. Should have beat the Chiefs. And yet they got losses to the Browns and the Raiders. Are you kidding me? And that's why I still believe in this team. Derrick Henry may break the single-season rushing yards record. I think that is probably going to happen this year. They're going to be the number 2 seed. But here's the thing. They're going to play someone like a Tennessee, remember back in 2019, and they're going to play down and lose. I don't know why, but I feel like that's happening. That's why I have the Bills and the Chiefs, and I think I got the Bills. I had the Bills and the Lions in the Super Bowl. My MVP is Josh Allen, no question about it. And I think we got a Lions-Bills collision course, and I think McCarthy will be fired either week after Thanksgiving or sometime in December. He will be gone from the Cowboys. Cowboys are not making the playoffs. And if you ask me right now, before we get to our Crazy Chris segment, who would be the team that I have left out? I mean, that my team's making the playoffs in the NFC. Washington, Philadelphia, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, Falcons, and I think that 7th team is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. Between them and the Rams. I think the Packers still a good football team. I like the Lions a lot. I think the Rams are just having the year from hell, but I like how they've gotten better. It's either going to be the Rams or 49ers. I'm going to lean 49ers. You're not a team that's made back-to-back conference championships, make it to the Super Bowl, and you're not even going to make the playoffs this year. And eventually Christian McCaffrey's going to come back. So those would be my teams that would make the playoffs. All right. Everybody gets tired of me. Their favorite segment by far is talking with my guy, Crazy Chris. So without further ado, it is time now for everyone's favorite segment, presented by no one, Crazy Chris. Crazy Chris, what do you got this week, man?
I'm sorry, I had to figure out how to do this thing right here. You gave me this new little microphone since you don't want to show me on camera, but that's okay. You know, it's pretty quiet here at the Waffle House tonight. You know, it's a little bit of rain, but I got my hash browns. I got my favorite omelet here. So, thank you, ma'am. Can you bring me some Heinz 54? Oh, she walked away. All right. So anyway,
54, not 57.
It's one of them. I don't know which one it is. I forget. You would think I would know since I've been here so often. Listen here, buddy. First off, it's good to be back. I know it's taken a few weeks off. And let me tell you something, man. All right, I listen with you and what Coach Brunson and all you guys talked about the NBA and all your favorite stuff. Let me tell you something, man. I know what you guys have to say about the Hawks. I got something for you I want to say about the Hawks, my friend. I'm going to go ahead and give you a crazy pick. Atlanta Hawks, Eastern Conference Championship. I'm putting it out there. That's right. Oh, yeah. Oh, I still do, my friend. You know what? Hey, you thought I was crazy. You even picked the Jets. They lost to the lowly Patriots. And you think the Jets are going to make the playoffs? Hey, you know what? You're not crazy because I still think the Jets could make the playoffs too. And I'm going to go even crazier than that. I don't even think Josh Allen is the MVP right now. Oh, don't get me wrong. Buffalo's good. Allen's playing like, he's supposed to be playing. But I'm going to tell you one, he was even better. He wasn't even supposed to be good. because his team lost their quarterback, the Minnesota Vikings. No matter how Minnesota finished this season, Sam Darnold, man, I'm going to tell you something. You get an MVP right now in my eyes. Minnesota should have been bad. You lose Kirk Cousins because you don't want to give him 6 more pennies. You lose J.J. McCarthy before the season even starts. You got to start Sam Darnold after what you saw in Carolina, and he got rejected from the San Francisco 49ers. And what has he done? He's taken that team to a 6-2 record. They're not perfect, but 6-2, and they got a chance to even probably win a division? They're not. Detroit's going to win that thing. Detroit has that thing locked up. I'm sorry. I have to agree with you. Detroit is on the class of themselves. They are so good. What Dan Campbell, I'm so impressed with Detroit. Not to say that I didn't think they were going to fall off, but the fact of the matter that I think they're playing better than last season when they made it to the NFC Championship. In a game where, honestly, they know they probably shot themselves in the foot against the 49ers, which another team that, see, here's the problem. You got so many mediocre 2-7, 3-6, or 3-win teams, 3-win teams. They're just not good. But at any point they could turn around and all of a sudden make a playoff push. You're even talking about even a championship or even a Super Bowl appearance. And the 49ers is one of them. They're hovering at 500, but that's because they don't have Christian McCaffrey. They don't have Deebo Samuel. They lost Brandon Ayuk. Purdy's doing the best he can. Right. It's so hard to count these teams out. I want to count out Kansas City because Patrick Mahomes is playing like doo-doo. He's not good. He has more interceptions than doggone Deshaun Watson. Think about that. But yet, Kansas City's still undefeated. Their defense is great. This reminds me of the Patriots team from 2019 where Brady wasn't that great all year. No, take that back. This is the Denver Broncos team from 2015 that played Carolina in the Super Bowl, where Manny was not great all season long, but that team as itself was good defensively and just with enough breaks. And you can see it. You can see it start to chip away. Travis Kelce. You talk about tight ends that have been disappointing other than Kyle Pitts. Kelce is one of them. And I don't care what you say about Taylor Swift, all that. Kelce he is not playing well this season. I know it's injuries. I know it's age. I know it's a lot of stuff. But it's so hard to count these things out. And in 1 minute, you sit here and say you're crazy because you're sitting there saying, yeah, the Falcons are going to make a Super Bowl or they're going to make an NFC championship. I still believe the Falcons and Detroit Lions are going to play against each other. I think that's an NFC championship.
They're the best 2 teams right now, Chris.
I do think that. I do.
And then you got the Hawks in the NBA championship.
I do.
It's been a while. We've been keeping them cooped up. Get back in there. Go eat your eggs.
Listen. All right, they got my waffles. I get 2 of them. I get one that's soft. I get one that's hard. I like to put them together. Okay, that's how I like it. All right, I'm crazy like that. All right, okay, ma'am. Can I get some maple butter syrup with this?
It's Crazy Chris segment presented by no one on Unsolicited.
I gotta go. The Waffle House chef, he wants to fight with me, so I'll talk to you later.
2008 was what I was going to do in review, but I'm actually going to save that for next week. It's been a long show. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be doing this every single week. It's Unsolicited Hot Take with Thrift Barringer and Chrissy Gates. We'll see you next time here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, YouTube channel, Thrift Barringer Facebook page. Good night, everyone.